2 weeks ago, ex-Vice President Cheney having reasserted his claim that what he calls enhanced interrogation, known to human beings as torture, stopped a great many terrorist attacks in the years after the September 11th carnage. Except former senior government officials who closely followed those enhanced interrogations are disputing Mr. Cheney. Those officials telling the Washington Post that the waterboarding of high-profile captive Abu Zubaydah turned a somewhat cooperative detainee into a machine who produced only false leads. Quoting the newspaper, not a single significant plot was foiled as a result of Abu Zubaydah's tortured confessions. Nearly all of the leads attained through the harsh measures quickly evaporated, while most of the useful information from Abu Zubaydah was obtained before waterboarding was introduced. Moreover, those officials claiming that the drive to waterboard Zubaydah came from the Bush White House, adding, quote, that the pressure from upper levels of the government was tremendous. They couldn't stand the idea that there wasn't anything new. They'd say, you aren't working hard enough. The first steps towards opening a criminal investigation against the Bush administration about torture now underway, only it's not by the U.S. government, but by Spain. The New York Times reporting a Spanish court now building a case against 6 high-level Bush officials, among them Cheney legal advisor and Chief of Staff David Addington, former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, former Justice Department lawyer John Yoo, author of the infamous torture justification memo, and, not to neglect the Pentagon's role, former Defense Undersecretary Douglas Feith. The other 2 are not Mr. Cheney nor former President Bush. For more on all this, let's turn to Jonathan Turley, George Washington University law professor and constitutional law expert. John, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
Vice President Cheney criticized Obama as recently as 2 weeks ago when he claimed Americans are now less safe because of the new administration's new policies on national security. And here we have officials who witnessed the old policies in action, saying they were not only completely ineffective, but they turned a fairly cooperative detainee into a guy who just said anything to stop the pain. Is this the moment at which we have jumped from a theory that torture does not work on any moral or practical level to a fact that torture does not work on any moral or practical level?
Well, that's, of course, the great irony about torture, is that it's long been known to produce absolute garbage. We had hoped that the moral limitations would be enough to prevent the United States government from starting a torture program. But history has shown that it has very little practical benefit. And the terrible thing is how cheaply the Bush administration sold our collective soul on this issue, how little we got for it. It's the ultimate Faustian bargain. The appearance that is left is that there were people in the White House on a visceral level wanted to have rough techniques exercised against these people. And it seemed to almost have the technique being the main driving force, that they wanted to see it used as opposed to its purpose. The great irony as well is that we've seen how legitimate means produce legitimate information. Part of the value of being in a legal system is it forces people to focus on the facts, what they know, and to get information that's reliable and usable, instead of the garbage produced here at such a just prohibitive cost for this country. The only thing we got out of this was the condemnation of the ages. We got nothing else.
Have we seen any movement yet out of the Holder Justice Department or any other part of the Obama administration about doing something about Bush administration abuses of power like torture?
No. I think that the White House is still desperately hoping that people will forget about this. President Obama has clearly been told by his political advisors that this would not be good for him and not be good for his administration. But of course, this isn't supposed to be a discretionary act. We're bound to do this. Now, the Spanish inquiry creates a very interesting prospect for Obama. That is, he can take the high road finally, right now, by saying that we prefer to do our own investigation. It's not my choice. I'll have a special prosecutor in the United States look into these, not to a foreign tribunal. He can do that and take the high ground, and he can regain what we've lost. But if he doesn't, that he will be blocking not just an investigation in the United States of known war crimes, but he'll be blocking an international effort to look into the same acts.
The Cheney national security aide who suggested this afternoon that the Cy Hirsch account of an executive assassination ring that reported to the vice president's office, it's not true. Then he described what was true, and of course it describes exactly that, only with a different name to it. Should the Spanish prosecutors be taking notes, because they don't include Cheney in their investigation here? They're focusing on 6 other figures.
Well, I think so. But, you know, Dick Cheney is every criminal defense attorney's nightmare. I mean, he's going around virtually selling torture like it's a sham product. And, you know, this is very embarrassing for Obama, because the reason he's out there, the reason he's having these conversations is because Obama's protecting him from a criminal charge, from a criminal investigation. He wouldn't be doing this if Obama simply said, look, what you are describing is a crime. Now, you can keep on talking about it, you can incriminate yourself, but I'm not going to protect you. I'm going to leave it to a professional prosecutor to determine whether what you're saying so proudly happens to be a criminal act.
You're an expert on the U.S. Constitution. I don't know. We've never discussed what you know about the Spanish government, but do you have any idea why on earth? I mean, even this Spanish magistrate who's doing this in Spain seems to be pulling his punches and not going after the former vice president and the former president of this country. You got any idea why?
Well, lawyers transcend boundaries, thank God. But one of the reasons, maybe you can always charge the higher-ups. You tend to go for lower-lying fruit, although these are fairly high-up individuals, but you tend to go for the first line of defendants, and then if you have a case, you go for the higher ones. But there's another reason. It's well known the Obama administration is protecting President Bush and Vice President Cheney from criminal investigation. And if he went after the two of them, the U.S. government could move aggressively to shut down the inquiry.
Jonathan Turley of George Washington University, great thanks for your time, and I guess I'm the one who's going to have to say it, so here it goes. Put me on camera for this in the 2 box if you still have it. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Oh, thanks, Keith.
Thank you, John.